Oh, for sure.
Who's dead?
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, it's time. It's time.
I'd like to call to order the April 13th, 2023 meeting of the Town of James Island Planning Commission. We are in compliance with and have been noticed with the South Carolina Freedom of Information. I'm Bill Lyon, Chairman. My left is Ed Steers, and on my right is Mark Mayer. Francis Simmons is our planning secretary. Kristen Crane is our planning director. Flannery Woods, planner one. Nikki Grimble is our town administrator. And I think that's all that we have here right now. At this time, we'd like to encourage anyone who'd like to speak during this, to speak now, during this public portion, this public comment portion of the meeting. Please state your name and address for the record and limit your comments to 2 minutes.
I'll start. My name is John Peters. When you see the design for the proposed development on the James Island PFC property that we're selling over here behind the front of the 6.5 acres. There's an L shape at the top over there, touches that easement that James Island PFC uses. My property is to the left of that. According to the designs that I believe it's developed, right? Yeah. As provided as a courtesy, I think he's respecting the neighborhood. I think that's honorable. I appreciate that. If he has a great deal with, if he buys the property, I understand. If I bought it, I do what I want with it. That's how it works. I'd say more than half of this property flows in the direction of my home from a runoff. So when we turn it into a concrete slab, or some of it will be turned into that. They'll develop the proper runoff ponds. The runoff pond that's right there below my property that catches encampment never really collects water. It's built with trees right now. But that tunnel, that tube that runs off, runs directly past my property and goes out that way and flows out to the water. My concern is that if there is an overflow of all properties, that it will directly impact my property and my neighbor behind me, because we're right against it. More than anybody else in White House Plantation. The property runoff goes, the other half goes towards the other side of White House Plantation. So it's all running off in the direction through those pipes. That some of them, I don't know actually how old they are, but my home was built in '67, so it's over 50 years. I don't know if it'll be a stable to sustain that. The trenches and ditches that have already been built through the neighborhood retain more than runoff. So just making you guys aware of all this, and it's, keep it in mind. My other concern is that there is the buffer that will be built or left from the development, is that it actually is a guarantee to be left. That in HOA, staff on the town council, I understand what can happen and what has happened. They could go, oops, and eliminate the buffer by accident, and there's nothing anybody can do. So I don't want that to happen. We enjoy having it in the wooded area. I know I can speak for many, but again, like I said, they'll have the right to do what we want to the property. But, oh, okay, okay, thank you. Well, I appreciate y'all's time and, good luck with everything. Thank you.
What's his name?
John Peters.
And what's his address?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Catherine Moore. I live at 1059 Quail Drive here in James Island. I have been proud of that home for 8 years. My first question is, I don't understand why this needs development at all. Please remember, there are exactly 3 ways off James Island. The additional traffic and living properties there are going to create another burden if we have to evacuate in a weather condition. I also know, having driven around James Island, that there are multiple empty storefronts on the island already. I don't know why we need more. And while the development and planning process is very well thought out and very pretty, it looks like pretty much everything that is in Mount Pleasant. And I don't really want to see this become the mini Mount Pleasant. I would say that the only upside to this would be if the housing was affordable housing. I don't know that there's any plan or guarantee that that's going to happen. And ultimately, since it's JIPSD deeded property, I don't understand why we aren't voting as a community, the town of James Island, about what we want to do with this, rather than get rid of it. So that's with regard to that property. I'd also like to advise again, the planning commission on the other amendment, the proposed amendment D. And I would request that you be very, very conservative in your definition regarding short-term rental and Airbnb. Because again, we are risking the jewel-like quality of this island to make it an access point to follow nature down. And we can do better. Thank you very much.
And who is she?
Please give me a member from following that. Came tonight to speak about the proposed amendment to land zoning development regulation ordinance, specifically the bed and breakfast. Echoing what she said, if anything, which should be put to a vote, level of decide, especially on an island in Charleston, if it is predominantly middle income, low income. Cutting off people's abilities to subsidize their homes, which have gotten exponentially more expensive in recent years, is a slap in the face to local residents. And it's also something that makes this island unique. Families come here and use this island, visit, rent homes for 2 weeks and bring their kids. It's not something they can do in the hotels downtown. So I think it's limiting residents' abilities to offset their increased cost of living. But it's also preventing families from coming here and enjoying this place we all love. So I hope it will be put to a community vote at some point. It needs to be taken into greater consideration. Thank you.
David Donner, I live on January. I'd like to second what my friend just said.
Maybe you mean, my name is Daniel Harris, I live on Fort Johnson Road. I own and operate a planning practice here in the Low Country, and I understand a lot of what the Low Country feels in terms of being able to generate a passive income. The importance of being able to offer something like that not only will still create the safety and security that should be here in terms of when we think about the quality of James Island and why we live here. But what we're finding is that short-term rentals can actually generate tax revenue for the state, for the town and the municipality. So leveraging that ability, why would we not take advantage of something like that, as a town? Though obviously guidelines are important. I think those need to be followed. That's why we set laws and rules. But I think again, to second those, third and fourth, I think the importance of having a vote on something like that and help the residents of this great little town continue to maintain that, but also enjoy being able to have people come and enjoy their homes, enjoy the James Island that we love. It also supports small businesses. There's no reason why people from Wisconsin and California can't come here
And if they can afford to stay on Holly Beach or stay downtown because it's exorbitantly expensive, the opportunity for them to stay in the middle, I think it's really helpful. It also provides them an experience that is unlike both, and they can get a little bit of both and really feel what Austin's about. So, thank you.
Good afternoon, Charlie McManus, 752 Sprague Street in Bayfront. I'd like to see assurance from the council that if there are amendments made to the bed and breakfast. I went through a process back in 2020 with Chris and Crane and everybody here to a great expense, trying to make something very nice that fit the neighborhood, low key, had significant investment that if this changes, that how am I protected? Am I subject to the new regime or the old? And I think I agree with the gentleman that Airbnb has been nothing but wonderful for our community in Bayfront, and hopefully will continue to do so. And one last thing, the Dock Street Park, we live right next door. Thank you for some of the lighting. If we can just get more police presence there, that'd be great. Thank you.
Do we have anybody else that wants to speak?
Second, it'll be 30 seconds. I can talk back here.
Okay, staff comment?
Mr. Chair, the minutes. That's not.
Oh, yeah, okay, let's see. For the minutes, do we have a motion to approve the minutes from the January 12th meeting?
I so move.
And a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Public comments. Staff comments.
Can we go ahead?
Yeah.
Okay, so I thought I would just kind of go over the procedure for the plan development. So it's understood how much more public comment will be able to happen for the Bills Bluff PD. So in italics, the first three are the ones that we've already done or in the process of doing. So we have the pre-application conference already. We've already done the community workshop. We did 2 community workshops with the neighborhood and anyone else who was concerned. And then right now we're on the conceptual PD development plan. So next, the applicant will present a draft PD plan and then with the application, and then we'll review that, bring it back to the planning commission for a recommendation that will go to town council, and then there will be the public hearing at town council, and then 2 readings, and then just decision for the rezoning at that point. So I just wanted that to be clear of the process for the plan development, and I can turn it over to Kyle. This will be like a workshop type setting, so if y'all have any questions, and feedback.
Yeah, it's the kind of hybrid, somewhat informal. Good evening, planning commissioners. My name is Kyle Taylor. I'm the developer, purchaser, and under contract with the Bills Bluff property. Currently owned and sold by the James Allen Public Service District. They've been working on selling this thing for a couple of years now. A little bit of history, they initiated plans to develop it maybe around 2014 for themselves. That met resistance. I believe they attempted to develop it again maybe in 2018. And that was met with the same resistance. And then they put it on the market. And we're in the mode of presenting to you guys for plan development PD rezoning. What about me? Just quick nutshell elevator speech. I'm a James Island local, born and raised. Full-time real estate, civil engineer, broker, part-time quality beach bum, where time allows. And this is one that we brokered through Palmetto Commercial Properties, where I work as a broker. And I will be self-engineering this under Taylor Consulting Group as well. So one of my land acquisition entities currently has this under contract. So what we presented, I've got two boards that I've. Is it okay if I move?
Yeah.
Mike, I don't know how that upset. I've got two boards here that maybe I can just pass along so that you guys can see it, and then if we want to hold it up, maybe I can grab a chair. But these are a few renderings. I guys just want to take a look. These are a few renderings. If you guys want to take a look at this. Some boards like to see it up close, and others maybe like to see it from afar. This board, and it looks like you guys have the printouts. We proposed kind of three options at this stage. Option A, which is shown on the screen. Option A is detached housing in the rear. Let's print on the other option available.
That's B.
Option B, which as shown is what we're calling B2. Option B, which what we're also calling B2 after going through some iterations with the two community workshops that we held. That has attached housing with the commercial at the front. And then there's an option C, make it
Yes,
in as well.
there we go.
And then option C, again, commercial at the front. Attached housing in the rear, but instead of it being. The option B had 22-foot wide units. This would be 30-foot wide. So this option, the sort of vision would be maybe 2-car garage, higher product, 20 units versus the 25 units option. And option B would be more your starter home, so a little bit more affordable than option C. Whereas option A would be the least affordable, just being detached housing. So the main play though is a mixed use product. The property is two parcels. One of them is currently zoned commercial as it is. The larger parcel as it is currently zoned residential. It's allotted by right in total for, I believe, 21 residential dwelling units. So our intent is we will be under sort of the maximum by right residential dwelling units, sort of as it stands, and provide really the vision. If we see this being a flagship project, really what we see as kind of heart of the town of James Island as a municipality, kind of being a nice walkable dining, mixed use, coffee shop, retail, medical office. We foresee maybe 10 to 15, but more likely 10 to 12 small businesses coming in here to support the local communities with sort of commercial village is what we see on the commercial side. A few things that we've done as we've presented to the neighbors with the workshops. As you see in really all these options, try to get really aggressive with the stormwater up front. We're going to be going through the town stormwater process, county stormwater review, DHEC requirements. It's going to check all those boxes. But we've really tried to initiate getting very aggressive with stormwater from the get-go. So you see there's 3 ponds, I believe, in all these options. Maybe scroll to see that B or C kind of B or C allows for even more just because it's attached housing. So it really condenses those footprints on the structures. Really trying to get aggressive with the ponds, really doing our best to frame the commercial. There's 40 grand trees that qualify as grands, whether or not they're healthy or not. They 24 inches above, there's about 40 grand trees. So we really try to frame the area, especially with commercial, around those grand trees to the best extent that we feel like we can. So that includes kind of weaving the entryway just a little bit. There's a few trees there in front of those two buildings along the Bluff Road. There's a few grand trees there, kind of in the middle of that commercial area that. First we thought maybe being kind of an area to kind of gather and hang out with some tables. Middle area, now we're kind of seeing that maybe being more of a stormwater sponge sort of area and have the gathering space between those two buildings on Bill Bluff Road. But this is where we are, and this is where we just want to gather sort of informal feedback from the planning commission and to help answer any questions that I could roll through an hour presentation for you guys, and I'll share everybody maybe some of those details and opinion you guys request for information. But I think that kind of hits the high points to initiate those conversations. So happy to take any questions and welcome feedback and discussion.
So it looks like you're gonna take out 3 grand trees that are viable. Is that what the plan is?
Our intent from a healthy grand tree, there's a PD right across the street. It was approved in maybe 2014. I think they had to remove 4 or 5 healthy trees. We're trying to stay in that realm. So yes, that's the number of healthy grand trees that we need to be pursuing the variance for.
I know, I guess there would be some that were not considered healthy that would come on too, right?
We've gotten an arborist to look at it. It's very respected. There's a lot of D trees, meaning poor hazard. There's actually no A trees. So, and there's a few Bs, but there are a lot of Bs. So that we don't necessarily intend to pick out all the D trees, but those that are new buildings, you're requesting to take out for safety purposes.
And you feel like the concerns about water, drain water would be addressed in this plan?
Very confident. Now, the neighborhood isn't a flood zone. The adjacent neighborhood isn't a flood zone, right? So I mean, I can certainly say we can't fix existing flooding issues. And I can't speak to the maintenance downstream, upstream, but I can say we will be very aggressive in meeting stormwater requirements and demonstrating that for this development.
Would you be bringing in fill to elevate the raised elevation of the property?
This property has a decent amount of topo change. To the southeast is around elevation 16. And then to the outfall, which is to the west, is about elevation. The outfall bottom ditch is elevation 7. So there's about 9 feet from top to bottom, which is very helpful. So will there be some fill? There may be, but this project we see not really having fill. We intend to do slab on grade homes. Part of the property is also in a flood zone, so we'll have to make sure that we address, those floodplain requirements for the proposed structures. But all that to say, fill, we don't see there being a ton of fill on this one.
So I know the BZA approved a property on right up the Folly Road. And they ended up, once it was approved, they ended up changing the use of the property. They changed it to, it was a commercial property. Would there be any possibility of y'all doing that, or would you stick to this exact diagram?
We'd be sticking to this plan, and the main high level intent of what we're doing is commercial up front along Bill's Bluff, village, what we're calling village commercial, and residential will be back. Yeah, that's not going to change. Now the exact uses of that retail, right? The businesses that come in, that the market will drive that to some extent.
So the area that you've got the commercial properties, that's already zoned commercial one.
Correct. That.
And then the back part would be the residential
Correct.
portion of the property. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I do. When you do the build out, what are you starting first? Commercial, residential? How are you going to do it? Develop it all at once? How's that going?
Yeah, I mean, the road will be the first thing, right? So that'll be what we see as being a publicly maintained road.
Right.
So the road will be the first thing. The stormwater will go into the road, getting the pads for the residential. The residential might lead to commercial. But we don't see there being a long lag.
Yeah, that's what I was looking.
Ed, did you have some questions?
The drainage thing was, I've been back on the property like 3 times. And I came through the Revolutionary War neighborhood there where Valley Forge and all that sort of stuff, and I've looked at it. And I'm curious where John's property is relative to this,
Right to the left of the,
to the left of the L. I couldn't get back there. I didn't want to intrude on your property.
Yeah, we'll confirm it.
right there, you're accurate, yes, sir.
Yes, he owns that
And
one.
behind me, along White House Boulevard,
Drainage.
is, another residence that sits lower than me.
You're 3.5 miles from my house. My dog and I ran there and back, so. Anyhow, I'm just curious about that. About the neighborhood there. That's all that sort of answered it.
What would be the setback from Dill's Bluff? How far would the buildings be set back? Would that be normal code?
Yeah, so we see the front buildings. We see them trying to engage with the street. There appears to be a berm along Bill's Bluff. When you drive by, there's looks kind of like there's a 3/4 berm. We're gonna be studying that to determine if we can bring that grade down to better allow sidewalk access to these buildings. But right now, our intent is to try to get fairly close to that right-of-way line. There is a power easement that we'll be definitely staying out of, but the distance between, say, the right-of-way line and the front building is about 15 feet. I don't see us getting any closer than 15.
I think people visualize some of the stuff in Mount Pleasant that's right on the main road. Spot. Anyone else?
No.
Good. Okay. I don't think we have any other questions, so we thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Now we'll be looking at the proposed amendments to the town of James Island zoning and land development regulations ordinance. Staff will give a short review and answers any questions regarding these proposed amendments.
So this first one in section 153.200 under accessory uses and structures would strike the sentence that says this does not include accessory dwelling units to be considered part of the principal dwelling unit. And the point of that is because accessory dwelling units were actually removed from the ordinance before this town was actually formed. And so we don't allow them. And this, to me, I think it was a lagging or like a, clerical error that wasn't removed when the ordinance was written back in 2011, when this town was being formed. So we do allow more than one dwelling unit per parcel if it meets the density requirements for the zoning district. So this is just clarification. For the next one in 153.066 for setbacks, we are proposing to strike the word street in here. This has been an issue that we regularly deal with when we get, especially new home site plans. So basically, right now it says that driveways may be located in front and street side setbacks. So that means if you have a driveway in a residential zoning district, your front setback is 25 feet. So if you have a driveway that goes on the side of your house, that's within 10 feet of your property line, that's back 20 feet, then you're technically in violation. So we just propose to strike the street word, so it says that your driveway can be in your side setback. Parking areas are considered accessory structures, so they can't be right on the property line to avoid the conflict with the neighbor and runoff. They would still have to meet the smaller setback, but it wouldn't be the 10 feet that's required
What
now.
would it be, 3 or 5 feet?
3 or 5, depending on how big it is. And then 153.207, accessory structures in residential districts. Number 4 addresses corner lots. Corner lots are just tricky because they're all different. They each have their own challenges, their own building sightlines, and the way it's written now, if you wanted an accessory structure and your house is catty cornered on a corner, then it's got to be pretty far back. You know, in corner lots right now, if your house is catty cornered, you don't have much of a backyard. The front yard is the majority of it, and we've just been having some issues with that. So it would be nice to be able to take this on a case-by-case basis with each lot, looking at, you know, if it fits in with where the proposed accessory structure is going to go. So it'd be like a shed or something like that. And then, you know, obviously maintain the vision triangle of clearance when you go around corners. And then the one everyone is concerned about, I'm sure, is bed and breakfast and short-term rentals. So currently, this is not changing anything that we currently allow or disallow. This is just cleaning up the language a little bit to make certain things that we've had issues with enforcing a little more enforceable. Everything that is allowed currently that we've approved permits for bed and breakfast, aka short-term rentals, would still be allowed to continue. We're not disallowing anything that we've given permits for. Yeah, so all of those would still be able to remain legal as they are. So when this ordinance was written, bed and breakfast is what we called short-term rentals. There's obviously been a lot of I don't know, word changes. So we're just adding in the word short-term rentals to go with bed and breakfast. So I'll just go through all of these. So the first line, bed and breakfast / short-term rentals. We're removing that sentence because before we hooked a short-term rental or a bed and breakfast in with a home occupation. So you would get a home occupation permit to operate a bed and breakfast. The home occupation regulations in our ordinance say things like you can't have a sign, you don't want to bother your neighbor, nobody's supposed to know, you can have a home office, etc. So we're just trying to keep that separate from now, so we don't have to go through the home occupation section to allow a bed and breakfast. So that's why we're striking A. B, we're striking that sentence and then adding the wording that says in residential zoning districts, there shall be no visible evidence of the conduct of a bed and breakfast. Short-term rental, when viewed from the street right of way or from an adjacent lot, signs are expressly prohibited. It's the same language that's already there. It's just cleaned up a little bit. Basically, if you have a bed and breakfast or short-term rental, we don't want it to be bothering your neighbors. Don't put a big sign out that says, you know, James Island Paradise, here you are. So anyways, that's what that says. And C, bed and breakfast / short-term rentals, we're just adding that term again. D, striking the innkeeper manager because we added that to G, which I'll go over in a second. E, meals may be served. That was confusing for some people because, you know, a traditional bed and breakfast that you think of, you know, there's someone there lives there and they serve you breakfast. Well, we're striking that. There shall be no cooking or kitchen uses in the bed and breakfast. So that really is not allowed anyways. And so we're striking that language. Once again, if you have a legal non-conforming accessory structure that you permitted legally and it's got a kitchen in it, fine, you can continue with that. So anyways, and F, parking areas for breakfast, bed and breakfast, short-term rentals. Down to the bottom, in addition to vehicles registered at the dwelling address is what we added, just to make sure that, you know, you can rent up to 3 bedrooms of your home currently. That's what we allow. We're not changing that. So you can have 1 car per room. That would be 3 plus the one that's registered at your home anyways. And, just kind of screening that a little bit more so it's not in the streets. Must be capable of being completely parked upon the property, not encroaching on your neighbors once again. And G, this is a new sentence, owner of bed and breakfast, short-term rental shall be a full-time resident of the dwelling and shall reside in the dwelling. In residential zoning districts, proof of full-time residency must be provided at the time of application with owner occupied legal residence, tax bill, driver's license, voter registration, vehicle registration, and any other documentation requested by the zoning administrator and listed on the application. There shall be an owner or innkeeper manager residing on the premises in non-residential zoning districts. So we allow and have allowed and still allow bed and breakfast in with an innkeeper or manager who resides on the premise. And you see the use table right here. So that would be pretty much every zoning district that's allowed. So we're just move that sentence to the bottom. The owner of the bed and breakfast shall be a full-time resident. That hasn't changed. We've always allowed that. That was in our home occupation section, which I talked about earlier with A. We're just cleaning it up. So to have a home occupation, you have to live there. So have bed and breakfast, you have to live there. Have a short-term rental, you have to live there. That hasn't changed. That's what we've always allowed. We're just cleaning the language up so it's a little bit easier to read and clarifying the application requirements for the 4% residence tax bill. That's these things that we talk about, the driver's license registration. That's already what Charleston County requires you to have to apply for your 4% legal residence. So we're just adding that requirement in the sentence and on the application, even though we already required you to turn in 4% tax bill. And H, advertisements and listings for bed and breakfast and short-term rentals must include an approved permit number. Advertisements that do not list a permit number are considered a violation of this ordinance. This is kind of similar to what the county does. We never had this in there before because, you know, like I said before, bed and breakfast, we weren't advertising them on Airbnb back in 2012, so it just wasn't written. We're just cleaning it up a little bit. And so that's, so in the definitions is, you know, same thing, just we have to add the word to the definitions to make it clear and also to the use table, but it's already there.
I do have a question.
Okay.
Oh, why did we consider, I just need a little further explanation or understanding around the no kitchen and a bed and breakfast, so it's just a bed without a breakfast?
Yeah, so that's why we're adding short-term rentals. The bed and breakfast term has just really grown.
Yeah.
poorly.
No, I understand, but why was there no
Because-
kitchen allowed? What's the reason behind that?
Well, if you have one already, it's just gonna be able to remain. So if
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to understand why you would limit that.
because then it's kind of creating like a duplex type situation. If you have,
Yeah, but it's a short-term rental.
right,
Doesn't matter, it's not a big lot.
well, it would be if you had another kitchen in there. Excuse me.
So, but it's being used as a short-term rental.
Right.
You don't see a problem with that paradox between the two? You're assuming it's one thing, and yet we're calling it something else, and we're getting revenue out of it as a bed and breakfast. So to then switch it over and call it a duplex, I mean, that's a conflict
Yeah, well, we
to
can
me.
strike bed and breakfast. I don't like that term anyways.
Feel like there's all difference. Word there.
Oh, I don't know, my
That was,
vision of a duplex is different from a short-term rental.
Well, you're speaking of having 2 kitchens in
Right.
the same property. That's what you've done that to do.
Yeah, but what's wrong with that?
Well, it's a single family
It's-
residential zoning district. That's what's wrong.
Yeah.
There's a lot of homes with 2 two kitchens. I'm just saying that.
I'm sure there are,
But our codes don't allow for that, do they?
no,
If you have a kitchen, one kitchen in your home, then you're entitled to that kitchen, but you can't put a separate. kitchen.
Now, there's new construction going on with two kitchens.
Yeah.
No,
There is,
we're not.
two.
I'm sorry, can
This is-
I please not talk right now?
Okay.
This-
I'm just saying that, you know, it's a conflict, man. They're building new construction with two kitchens now. Now we're sitting here trying to take and limit.
We are not building new construction with kitchens in the town of James Island, maybe in the city of Charleston or somewhere else, but not in the town. We don't allow it unless you have 2/3 of an acre.
Yeah, I understand we came out with a regulation around that, but I don't understand it. Are we over regulating people on what they can now have in their home? Come on.
Yeah, we receive a lot of complaints from.
From what?
Airbnb.
My next door neighbor that has two kitchens, I'm going over there and complaining that he can cook in two different areas?
Yeah.
I don't understand that. I mean, to me, it's over regulation.
As
And
it
there's
stands,
gotta be a limit. I mean, let's go out and regulate everything then.
as it stands now, if you have one kitchen, you're limited to that kitchen. You can't put a second kitchen, am I right?
Right, or you would have.
So you, and I guess if you build a house with two kitchens, you know, you'd be okay. I mean, it's.
Yeah, but we're trying to manage something that already exists. Okay? So for me, it's an encroachment on something that we used to do all the time. Now we've added now we're telling people they can't have two kitchens. It's ridiculous.
Well, you don't have to vote for it.
No, that's it.
Ed, you got anything? I'm not seeing, I know a number of people have spoken that we're making some big changes as far as the short-term rentals. Am I missing something? Is there
No.
something in here that's a big change or
No, we're not.
we're
changing
just,
Anything that we don't already allow or not allow. We're just cleaning it up a little bit. I mean, the goal of allowing a short-term rental in an owner occupied house is to let people keep their house if they need supplemental income. It's trying to regulate. It's amazing how many calls we get a day when a house goes on the market from someone who lives out of state, who wants to rent that home out, the full home on Airbnb and not live here. That's taking the housing stock away from families who need somewhere to live. It's the affordability is not working anymore. We get a lot of calls about that. When I say a lot, I mean a lot. And we have 38 right now in the town that are not their primary residence. So they live elsewhere and they're renting out their home on a short-term basis. And those are the ones that we're not focusing on these people who live on James Island right now and they're renting out their bedrooms and they have a little kitchen. I'm sorry about that, but we're trying to focus on the ones that don't live here, who can't keep up with who's there, who are bothering their neighbors and things like that. That's the ones that we would rather focus on getting regulated. So it maintains the character of the single family neighborhood that people love about James Island. That's the goal.
so if I wanted to rent out a bedroom, no
You can do
problem.
that.
I come get a permit from you.
Or if you have a legal accessory structure in your backyard that was permitted and has a kitchen in it, you know, at one point we did allow that, then you can do that as well.
My concern is with probably the parking. Being in a situation where it can infringe on the other people that aren't participating with this, that have no judgment about how many people are going to be in there. And all of a sudden you have a lot of people there. And then all of a sudden, you have a party there and there's a lot of people there. And you're infringing on the people that aren't doing it. And also, you look at the way things are right now in this society, people have guns and people do things. I'm not a teetotaler. I'm not a teetotaler at all. But you see alcohol and things like that with massive people congested in a residential area where there are children and there are older people and there are younger people that can't protect themselves when there's a group there like that. So I think the parking limiting to that maybe seem unreasonably restrictive, but it's also a safety thing. And also the factor that the resident needs to be there. And I had seen in my neighborhood, people all of a sudden coming in a house, a lot of cars, the resident's not there. I knew the resident wasn't there. So I talked to that resident about it, and he wasn't willing to stay there and rent her house out. Therefore, she stopped doing it. I mean, she's accountable for what happens in her house and who the people are renting it are. And if they're not going to be there to maintain that control, then you start to get the possibilities of a lot of people being there. And you don't know who they are. You don't know who they are. You don't know if drugs are there. You don't know if wild parties are going to be there. And that's a concern of mine, to lose control of the neighborhood with this. And I sympathize with the people that feel like it's restrictive, but I also see the side of the people who are getting influenced by it without any say in the thing.
For the sake of discussion, I'll make a motion that we approve the staff's recommendations. Do we have a second?
I second, but I don't
Just for
know.
the sake of discussion, so we can.
Oh, okay. So I've already broken that. I already did this discussion. Yeah, I second.
Okay. Then, what do you think?
What exactly am I approving? Just the language of what we're doing here,
Yes,
or, okay?
just the,
Well, clarification is what we're trying to do here.
Yeah.
So I would vote.
yeah, and I would too. I tend to agree with Ed that the reason for all this is to limit the craziness. I know we had an uncertified Airbnb in our neighborhood, and we had like one night that I got a call from neighbors who had 40 cars parked up and down the street. There was a band playing in the yard, and we need some kind of restrictions, I think, to be able to control.
I understand that, but my concern here is that we're reacting to a minimal problem or a minimal issue. And then we're imposing that upon 95% of the people that do it right. And you don't make laws or regulations around the fact of a small number. Now, the problem here is she doesn't get called about things that work well or work right. The only thing she gets are complaints now, and then we take that and we blow it up to this big picture that isn't actually reality. We have no method. I mean, we're sitting here discussing hypotheticals.
No, I'm not talking hypotheticals.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not. I've seen it. I've seen it.
I know, but that's a one individual thing. You don't see the 99% of the other side that is adhering to what the regulations are.
Well, good, because we're not changing the regulations, so they can adhere to them. We're not changing
Now, my whole point about, we've gone down a road where we're just over regulating all this thing. It's
Well,
crazy.
People are not very smart, and if they could just do what they should do and obey the rules, nobody would have.
Yeah, but you're only hearing from the people that don't. That's my point. You see 100% of people that don't, when you don't see the other 99%.
But one of the issues is that today it's regulated. So that's why we're only seeing a minimal number of cases. If it wasn't regulated, then God knows how many cases.
No, that's a hypothetical. You don't know that. That's my point. We're sitting here making decisions around hypotheticals. We always know, hey, I was a teenager. I had a party at my house. I came back and my dad kicked my butt. Okay, that's how it worked back then. What you're assuming is it doesn't work that way now. And so we're basing this all around hypotheticals
That's totally,
without empirical evidence.
that's a different situation. I mean, that was your private home that you had the party. We're
But what do you
talking
think
about,
this is? They own the house. We're
They're renting
requiring
it.
them to be there.
it's a commercial venture. They're renting the house out.
I know, but they're there on site.
No,
They're on Right. Nobody does that.
They do.
Sorry.
They do.
If they're living in my house, then they're not illegal. They're legitimate. There's no problem. As long as they live in the house, everything's okay. The only issue you had was with the kitchen, you know, that's.
No, that's not the only issue.
Anyway, I guess we've had enough discussion.
Sorry, I was out of order.
All those in favor of approving staff recommendations, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? It's unanimous. Town council will hold a public hearing and first reading on these amendments at the May 18th meeting. Second reading will be held at council's June meeting. Local planning commissions must elect one of its members as chairperson and one as vice chairperson for 1-year terms. These appointments will begin immediately and last through 2023. We have some discussion.
Can I make a motion?
Sure.
I have a motion that we'd like to have you be the chairman and Deb be the vice chairman.
I agree. Do we have some? I haven't had it.
And I don't know if I can vote for Zinni, but he feels the same way.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. Here's comments. I just wanted to say, I do not believe anything we voted on tonight is going to change anything as far as the regulations concerning short-term rentals in the town of James Island. If you have disagreements about what those regulations should be, you should probably talk to your town councilman and see if they can make some changes. But all we do is approve modest, well, we recommend modest changes. They actually have to approve what we recommend. Any commissioner comments? Our next meeting will be May 11th, 2023. If that's all, this meeting's.